No other will do. I've lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love. I've lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love. Lost all ambition, worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love. I've lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love. I've lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love, love. Lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just be the one you love. I've lost all ambition or worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love, love. Wanna
This couldn't happen again. This is that one. This couldn't happen again.
Didn't build any pipelines because they were afraid.
Vulvas and vaginas.
I'm for a gold standard.
It's crazy, but it's real. We are banned on the mainstream media.
What is his ties to the West?
Oh, it's dangerous to have people expressing their point of view.
To have the courage of your conviction.
Control from the big tech or from the government. We don't like fiat money.
Drop a comment, ask a question. We'll try and get to as many as we can at the end of the episode. Hello and welcome to Mad Max Live, episode 18. My name's Daniel Tyree. I'm the executive director of the People's Party of Canada. But tonight I am your host. We have another great episode ahead of us, but it's our first episode of the year, Maxim.
Yeah, that's great. Happy New Year,
Happy
Daniel.
New Year. Happy New Year. It feels like a year since we've done this last stream.
Oh my God, yes. And Happy New Year to all our viewers. I believe that will be a fun show tonight.
Yeah,
there's a lot of thing in the news. So I hope you'll stay with us until the end.
Yeah, right until the end. We have another fun episode ahead of us. We're going to talk about the censorship of Dr. Jordan Peterson. We're going to talk about the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum next week. We'll talk a bit about equalization payments, and we'll close out the episode with a discussion on immigration. But before we get into that stuff, I do need to do some general housekeeping, get the boring stuff out of the way. As a general reminder, Mad Max Live is our bi-weekly PPC live stream where Max and I sit down to discuss the hot news of the week or the month, talk about what else is going on in the People's Party of Canada, and all that sort of fun stuff. We stream every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those that prefer a French language stream, we do provide one earlier in the day at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're currently live streaming across our social media networks on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, across the works. So if you can take a moment to make sure you're following us on whatever social media platform you're watching on currently, or better yet, jump over to one of those pro free speech channels, Rumble or Odyssey, and drop us a follow there. Our follower count has been going through the roof on those channels, and it's important to follow us on those channels, just in case we get censored by the big tech. We know their ways. It's only a matter of time before we're kicked off of Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. So make sure you're following us on Rumble or Odyssey to make sure you don't miss any of these live streams or our other video content. But the best thing that you can do to make sure that you're kept apprised of what's going on in the PPC is to head over to our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and sign up for our email list. That's where you get the full uncensored takes from Maxim's fingertips straight into your inbox. So make sure you sign up for that email list. It's totally free, and you'll get regular updates from the party, and you'll also get interesting updates when Maxim is coming to an area near you. There will be some public events in Ontario and Manitoba in the next month or so.
I'll be back on the road.
Yeah. So make sure you're signed up for that email list. You'll get your updates there, or better yet, become a member of the party. It's $10 for a year, $35 for 5 years. That's how you get involved. You need to be a member to become a volunteer, to get involved in your association, or to become a candidate, which we'll be launching later this month, our candidate selection process. If you don't want to become a member, check out the donation page. Even small donations help keep the wheels turning, keep the lights on here at PPCHQ. A small donation helps.
Keep me on the road.
keep you on the road. Keep us doing fun projects. Keep our election fund big to compete with those establishment parties. So if you can afford it, make a $20 donation, make a $10 donation, whatever you can afford. We really appreciate it. Those donation limits just reset a couple weeks ago.
1,700
for this year. They go up every single year. So with all that fun stuff out of the way, let's jump into our first topic. To kick things off tonight, I do want to discuss what's probably the biggest news story so far of 2023, which is the censorship of Dr. Jordan Peterson. On January 5th, Peterson announced that the College of Psychologists of Ontario was requiring him to attend social media retraining lest his license be revoked. This action comes after a series of complaints against Peterson throughout 2022 for all sorts of things, from unprofessional conduct to partisan criticisms of Justin Trudeau and even the kind of COVID regime. We can take a look at some of these examples of some of these tweets. There's you voicing your support, but there's a couple other examples of Peterson commenting on the convoy and COVID mandates and so on. So what do you think about this story, Maxim?
I believe that, yes, like you just said, it is very in Canada. What is happening right now to Jordan Peterson, and also we must say to other professionals, doctors and nurses, they've been silent and sanctioned for their conviction. That must not happen in a free and democratic country, but that is happening here in Canada, and that's why I was at that protest yesterday in Toronto. And, we were about 300 people there. And that was important for me to be there and to show my support to Jordan, but also to these professionals that were not able to do what they want to do or to express their point of view. And when you have that in a democratic country, you are not in a democratic country anymore.
Yeah, especially for when it's unequally imposed on different sides of the political spectrum. It's one thing for regulatory bodies to have professional standards, but these complaints aren't even about Peterson's work as a psychologist. They're
Yeah,
for his-
and it's not coming from his own clients.
Yeah.
It is people on social media, leftist people
from different countries all around the world who
they try to silence him because he's very efficient.
Yeah.
He is a good communicator, and I believe. I don't know which journalist. I think it's RuPaul wrote that. She said they're doing that to him to show an example.
Yeah.
So, and to force maybe other professionals to silence themselves,
to scare them.
to censor themselves. And it happened in Quebec with Clinique Lacroix in Quebec City in the beginning of COVID-19. And they tried to silence him, and they succeed because he wanted to keep his license.
Yeah.
So that can be why they're doing that to him, to just prove to everybody, we're not afraid. We're going to sue you if you don't speak like we want, if you're not part of the narrative. And, you have that in a communist country, but now we have that in this country. So when we are speaking about freedom, it's another example. And, it's sad that it's happening in our country. We have a Charter of Rights, as you know, Section 2B, but that's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I sued the federal government because I wasn't able to travel across the country. It was against my constitutional right to travel freely across this country, but I didn't win.
Yeah.
So we have a nice piece of paper, but we have politicians in Ottawa who don't matter with that. It's okay to not respecting the Charter of Right. And you have judges that are saying, no, it's okay, the Charter, and they will find every kind of arguments to say, oh, no, the Charter, you cannot apply the Charter to your case. And so that's our country right now.
Yeah. Well, your lawsuit, they didn't even look at it on its merits. They just said it wasn't relevant anymore, and they threw it out.
Yeah.
Peterson's similarly put forward a lawsuit against the College of Psychologists on the merits of their punishments for him. I could see something very similar happening, saying it's not their responsibility, that the college is a self-governing body, and not even hearing his merits of his case.
Absolutely. But for Jordan, he will have to spend money to defend himself. There's cost there.
Yeah.
So that's why if you're a nurses or a doctor or another professional, you're looking at that case, and maybe you don't have the money to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe you will censor yourself.
Yeah.
And that must not happen. We must have debates in a free and a democratic society. You must be able to debate. And they don't want us to debate because they know that we will win that debate. So that's the radical leftist ideology. That ideology is pushed by these regulatory bodies and establishment politicians. So if you're not part of that radical leftist ideology, they will try to censor you.
Yeah.
And because they're afraid of our arguments. So we need to fight that. And that's why I'm always saying you need to have the courage of your conviction.
Yeah.
And because doing something and speaking for what you believe when you may have a risk to lose your license and lost your job, that's a big risk. But that's why during COVID-19 I said these nurses and doctors that spoke and lost their job, for me, they are extraordinary Canadians, and they had the courage of their conviction, and they're my heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. It's one thing for a regulatory body like this to impose standards for the profession of psychology, but it's completely something else to regulate what every psychologist says online. Like it would be like the whole purpose of this body is to make sure patients are treated properly, and there are ethical standards and stuff. But stepping into what people say publicly is seems to be outside of their jurisdiction to me.
It is, and I believe that if we have more people who understand that, they will have to retract, and that time will come. But I just don't know when, but it will come. The common sense will prevail. You must have the right to say what you want. You have the right to insult me, and that's you're free to say what you want to say. And when you start to regulate speeches, that's the end of a democracy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the establishment picked a good fighter if they wanted to.
Oh yeah,
pick a
he
fight,
will.
so,
He will be there.
and Jordan's been good to be very public about everything. He's posting as much as he can right online, so people can make their own determinations on the fairness of the process.
And he told us also that he will publish more details about that in couple of days, so we're going to follow that.
Yeah. So we'll continue to follow this story as more details come out. So far, it seems to be pretty absurd, but we'll keep watching and see if there's any credibility to this story. Let's shift over to something I want to cover really quickly, and that's next week is the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. It's the forum in Davos, Switzerland.
I don't want you to go there.
No, I can't go. We've heard so far that 2 liberal ministers will be appearing and speaking at the forum. Chrystia Freeland, our deputy prime minister and finance minister, as well as controversial MP Mary Ng, the minister of international trade, who was I believe had an ethics violation at the end of last year for hiring her friends for consulting reasons. My first question, Maxim, is I won't go, but are you planning to go?
I won't go. I won't go. I don't want you to go. I don't want our elected candidates when they'll be elected at the next election to go. It's a socialist organization. They are promoting leftist values, radical leftist values. They want to govern us. They want to tell us here in Canada what it's good for us. And that's why, we won't participate in the World Economic Forum. And my advice for these 2 ministers, if you want to go to Davos, maybe you can go there, enjoy the scenery, ski, but can you miss the conference and come back to Canada after that? Would be, it would be great if you can do that.
To go check out the beautiful rolling mountains. But
don't waste your time over there at that conference, please.
Yeah, really.
But they won't, because they share the same values.
Yeah.
And for them, that's their.
It's a big circle jerk.
Yeah. It's all their friends, and they want to mingle with them. They want to come back with other new ideas to control us, and they think that they know better how the world must work. And so, no, you know better than me, than you, we don't want to interfere in your private life, and you must have more freedom, and we don't want to be part of that, and we won't. So that's it for the World Economic Forum.
When you're prime minister,
and the UN also.
Yeah, for sure. But when you're prime minister, you should go and you should give a big speech about how governments should be focused on their own countries, and
they won't let me. They won't let me do that. They don't want the other point of view.
They let Trump do it at the United Nations. Maybe they haven't learned their lesson yet. What I find incredibly ironic about this whole thing is Chrystia Freeland herself, before she was an elected politician, before she was
she was on the board.
Well, she still is on the board. But before her political career, she was a journalist, and she wrote a book that I had to read in university called Plutocrats. And the funny thing is, Plutocrats is actually much more in line with our vision of society than it would be with hers. She calls out the globalist elite for being not loyal to any country, for making decisions that benefit this globalist elite instead of the people. It was actually a very eye-opening book for me in university, and it's very bizarre to see her now cozy up with the World Economic Forum and the globalist elite. Yeah. She specifically calls out the World Economic Forum in her writing.
So she's a new lady now. She forgot all that, and now she's in line with that philosophy, and she's a globalist now.
This is what power does to people, right?
Maybe
it corrupts. It's disappointing to see,
Yeah.
but worth checking out the words of our current finance minister before she had a taste of power. I do want to shift over to our next topic. Before we get into that, I do want to remind everyone to take a moment to interact with this live stream, regardless of what platform you're on. If you can drop a comment,
Yeah.
a question, better yet, we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the episode. But a comment, a like, a retweet, a share, whatever the social media language is for the platform you're on currently, if you could take a moment and do that, it helps with the algorithm, gets more eyeballs on this live stream, live and later the archived version. That's the goal at the end of the day, right? To get as many eyeballs, as many ears listening to our message as possible. So if you could take a message, take a moment, interact with this live stream in any way that you can, that would be greatly appreciated. Better yet, head over to one of those pro free speech channels, Rumble or Odyssey, and make sure you're following us over there. That'll make sure that you're able to watch our video content, even if we're censored by those big tech people down in Silicon Valley. But the best thing you can do is head over to our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Make sure you're signed up for our email list. That's how you get the unfiltered words straight from Maxim's fingertips into your inbox, and you get notified of anything going on with the party in your area locally, or when Max is coming to an area near you sometime soon. There will be upcoming events in Ontario as well as Manitoba in the next month or so. So make sure you're signed up for our email list and make a small donation if you can afford it. They're all tax deductible, 75% tax deductible for all donations below $400. If you donate $20, you get 15 back from the government. It's a really lucrative system that we need to be taking advantage of if we're going to get our coffers, our war chest nice and full for the next election. We're already preparing for that, whether it comes this spring or in fall 2025 as it's scheduled. We need to be prepared. We need to have the money to compete with the establishment parties. With that stuff out of the way, I do want to jump into our next topic, which is the equalization formula. This is an important aspect of the federal government that really doesn't get enough discussion. There was some changes made at the end of the year, and I was trying to find some articles for this conversation. I was shocked to find there's almost no coverage, even in the last month, about these the updates to the spending regime for the equalization formula. So for those that are not familiar with what the heck I'm talking about right now, I'll give a kind of brief overview of what the equalization formula is. So generally speaking, the federal government is the entity that collects all of our taxes, but the provincial governments provide most of the services, namely healthcare and education. So to pay for these services, the federal government has to transfer tax dollars to the provinces to pay for them. Pretty simple. To make sure all the provinces have enough money, regardless of what the citizens of those provinces kind of put into the pot, the federal government rearranges money to make sure that the have-not provinces, the provinces that don't have enough tax revenues, have enough money to cover their services. It all sounds good when you describe it like that, but it has some kind of nefarious effects. So Maxim, can you kind of explain to our audience the kind of the negative side of the equalization formula, specifically how it kind of impacts Western Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I must say that the budget for the equalization formula is $23 billion this year.
Yeah.
So, and I must say also that Quebec will receive $14 billion this year. That's about 60% of the budget. And Quebec has been receiving money from the equalization formula since the creation of that program, since 1957. For my part, Quebec is not a poor province, and the goal must be for my own province to receive no equalization money, because if they don't receive any money from the equalization formula, that means that Quebec is a rich province, and that's the goal. So why Quebec is receiving and other provinces like in Nova Scotia are receiving that money, it's because we, at the provincial level, they don't have efficient or good economic policies. and they don't want to develop their own natural resources. So, like in Quebec, there's a shale gas over there and natural gas, but there's a moratorium on that, on the exploitation of that. Same thing in New Brunswick. So, if Quebec exploit that, they would be richer and they will receive less equalization money.
Yeah.
So fewer money from the equalization formula. So there's no incentive for them to do that. So that's why I'm saying that formula is a poverty trap.
Yeah.
So, and it's not fair. So we need to change that. We need to be less generous like that. That would be the right incentive for these provinces to have better economic policies and develop their own natural resources. So we are the only national party that is saying that, being less generous and changing the formula for a new formula that would be fair and efficient. So right now, the formula is not fair because also Quebec is a poor province, because when you look at the revenues that is going to the formula to look if a province is a poor one or a rich one, the oil and gas industry, it's part of the formula, but the hydroelectricity, it's not. So that's another reason why Quebec is a poor province and why the formula is unfair. So you need to change it to be less generous and changing the formula to include hydroelectricity in the formula. But also, it is important to do that for the unity of our country. Now you have people in Western Canada that are fed up with that. They're tired of that formula. And in Alberta, they had a referendum, and 60% of the population said, we must get rid of that formula. But the answer is we cannot, because it's part, yes and no. The principle of equalization, it's part of the Constitution. So you need to have a kind of a program like that.
Formula.
But the formula and the amount, yes, you can give, instead of a budget of $23 billion, it can be a budget of $1 billion. And that will be the decision of the federal government alone. You don't need to have negotiation with other provinces. Actually, Harper, when he was prime minister, he increased the money in the equalization formula after a cabinet decision. So that formula is unfair. I understand people in Western Canada that they want to change, and we are the only party that is answering your request. And yes, we will do that for the unity of this country. And it's too bad that we don't, like you said in the beginning, that we don't have a deep discussion about the equalization formula. And we don't have a deep discussion about that because the Conservative Party and all these establishment politicians, they take for granted your support in Western Canada, in Alberta. So, and they want to have more support in Quebec and in New Brunswick and in Atlantic Canada. So it's not popular to say to people in Atlantic Canada, we will change the formula and you'll have less money coming from the equalization formula. They don't want, and you cannot explain that in a little 15-second soundbite on TV. So that's why they won't do that. So I'm telling you, people in Western Canada, if you want to change, the only political party that is speaking about that and will do it, it's us. The Conservative Poliev is taking your vote for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Quebec maintains over this whole period some of the most generous social services in the country, while not having to foot the bill, while having the Western provinces, Alberta and such, supporting those programs.
And I must say, I have the courage of my conviction. I said that in Quebec in French, in New Brunswick in French.
In
I
French
said,
an hour ago when we were doing the same show. in French.
And in French an hour ago, but in French a couple of years ago, when I said that I'm not proud to be Quebecers because Quebec is a poor province, and I deliver a speech about that. And it's the way that you must do politics, saying the same thing in English and in French. And if it's not popular in a region, you must speak about it a little bit more to explain that to the population. That's our goal at the People's Party of Canada.
And for those that didn't get it, it's kind of a classic example of what we call a welfare trap. where like average citizens might be discouraged from getting a job, for example,
Yeah.
because they're receiving money from the government. So since they don't have to, work a job to get paid so they can buy food, since they have that government subsidy, they're discouraged from getting a job. This is the same thing that's happening
Yeah.
with the equalization, but on a massive scale. The
Yeah.
whole province of Quebec, they can continue to pay for these generous welfare programs. Their daycare program that offers affordable daycare.
They can balance that budget if they want.
Exactly. It puts them in a position that other provinces can't even be in because they get those funds from those other provinces. So if we can create a less generous formula, Quebec would be in a position where they'd have to develop their resources.
But not only Quebec, New Brunswick and
Oh, yeah.
other have not provinces.
Even Ontario, which
yeah.
goes back and forth.
Yeah.
It's sometimes a have-not province. It's sometimes a have-more province. It would put these provinces in a position where they would have no choice but to grow their economy. A good
Yeah.
way would be
Yeah.
developing the resources that are
Yeah.
in the ground that they just don't want to use for leftist political reasons, to grow their economy, which would benefit all of Canada, right?
Absolutely.
If we could have every province be a half more province, we'd be in a much better situation across the board. So on the note, Maxim, what would the PPC do to reform the equalization formula to be more fair for everyone?
Yeah, just to absolutely, we can do that. We can have a parliamentary committee that will look at it, and after that, you don't need to pass a legislation. You'll have a cabinet decision about that. But our goal, we want Canadians to be able to understand the formula. Right now, there's only 5 economists in this country who understand that formula. And it's so important for the future of this country. Everybody must be able to understand the formula. Let's have a new one that will be simple, efficient, less generous, and give the right incentive to provinces. That's what we want to do. That's part of our platform. You can go and read our policy on that on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Click on the platform, and after that, equalization. You have you can read 2 pages. It's easy. Read it. It's simple. It's right to the point. And and actually, we are promoting that change since the creation of the People's Party of Canada, and I hope I will have more opportunity to speak about it.
Yeah, it's an important issue, and it doesn't get enough talk. I'm curious if you're watching right now. Let us know in the chat. Are you familiar with the equalization formula? Before we just explain things, let us know in the chat what you think about it. If you knew about it before, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I'd like to move on to our last topic of the night before we start taking your questions. But before we get into that, a general reminder, please do take a moment to interact with this live stream in any way that you can. A like, a retweet, a share, anything like that, a comment, even better, a question. We'll answer as many of them as we can at the end of the episode. Those interactions help us get more eyeballs on this live stream, more ears listening to our message, which is the goal at the end of the day. Better yet, jump over to one of those pro free speech channels, Rumble or Odyssey, and drop us a follow there. That'll make sure that you're able to watch our video content, our live streams, and all that fun stuff, even if we get knocked off one of those traditional social media platforms, Facebook or YouTube. But the best thing that you can do to make sure you get our uncensored messages straight into your inbox is to head over to peoplespartyofcanada.ca and make sure that you're subscribed to our email list. There's a little sign up box right on our homepage. Sign up for our email list to get Maxim's hot takes in your inbox on a weekly basis, or to get any updates on what's going on in your area with the party, or when Maxim is coming to an area near you next. If you can afford it as well, jump over to become a member of the party. That's how you can get involved. It's only $10 for 1 year, $35 for 5 years.
And they will receive a membership card.
Oh, yeah. We will be providing membership cards early in this year. So if you want a nice fancy membership card for the People's Party of Canada, if you want to get involved as a volunteer, as a candidate, or on one of our electoral district associations, make sure that you sign up to become a member of the party. As well, if you can afford it, make a small donation to the party on our donation page. Even a small donation, $5-10 helps a lot, and everything is tax deductible, particularly below that $400 mark. Everything is 75% tax deductible. A $20 donation will only cost you $5 after taxes. $400 donation will only cost you $100 after taxes. So we got to get those donations coming in for 2023. We got to get that war chest nice and full so we can compete with those establishment parties come the next election, whether it's spring 2023 or fall 2025. We need to be ready whenever it is. With that out of the way, I do want to move on to our last topic, which is immigration. Something, my favorite topic to discuss, what I think is the most important issue in Canada right now, personally. Last week, it was announced that we hit an all-time record for most immigrants received in a single year with 437,000. Wow. Just in 2022 alone, and that's not counting the illegal immigrants crossing the border. I think there's another 30 or 60,000 of those.
In Quebec, just crossing the Roxham Road in Quebec last year, we will have the final data in a couple of days, but it's between 40,000 to 50,000. So that's a lot of people. So illegal immigrants.
So with illegals tacked on there, it's almost 500,000, and that's not counting temporary foreign workers, where there's another 700,000 of those. So lots of new immigrants in Canada having various effects on our society and our economy. So one positive development I've seen in the last few weeks, on the other hand, is there's been a lot more mainstream coverage of, in critical coverage of immigration policy in Canada, which is great to see. Yeah. We saw a couple of op-eds in the Globe and Mail, in the National Post, in the Financial Post as well. So it's good to see coverage, critical coverage across the board. So generally speaking, Maxim, first off, I want to know what your thoughts are on this new record of 437,000 immigrants and the plan for 1.5 million new immigrants over the next 3 years.
Yeah. So this year the goal is 465,000. And in 2025, it will be 500,000 every year. So that's mass immigration. I'm pleased, like you said, that we have that debate on the immigration level, the numbers, and we have that debate in the mainstream media. And when we started that debate in 2019, these mainstream media were, looking at me like I was a racist or xenophobe because I was saying we need to have sustainable immigration and we are against mass immigration. Now they realize that 500,000 people every year, with a country who's having 38 million people, it's mass immigration. Yeah. And the problem that we have right now, we have a lot of challenges in our country. Housing, like you said. And we know that 42% of these immigrants are going to Toronto and Vancouver. And, they are increasing the housing a crisis in these cities. Yeah. It's a question of numbers, more people, and the supply is not able to
piece of zoning rules.
Yeah, zoning rules and all that. So these people are pushing prices up, and the prices is going up.
It's economics 101. You increase demand without increasing supply.
That's it.
Prices go up.
Prices go up, and that's the solution for that. There's no other solution. If you want to control and to control what is happening in our housing market, you need to have fewer immigrants. And so I was pleased because it was not written like that in the Global Mail, but they are speaking about that a little bit. So, and that's the only solution. There's no other solution if you want to have an impact on the price of houses in these big cities.
Well, some politicians say you can just bully big city mayors into doing whatever you want, right?
Oh yeah. And also Poliev said, and he said, no, immigration is not a problem, and there's no effect there. There's no link between immigration and the housing market because Canada is a huge country, and these people can go anywhere. But we know that 80% of our population are near the border of the U.S. And so near the U.S. border, and 42% of them are going at the same place. So that's the situation. Yes, we are a huge country, but people want to go at the same place in the same cities, and that's a problem. So
We
it's
just
not,
need to start building houses in Nunavut. That'll solve the problem.
yeah. So Polyev doesn't have the solution, and he doesn't want to speak about that. So, but also that is having an impact on the healthcare.
Yeah.
And just for example, in British Columbia, there's 1 million people there who don't have a family doctor.
Yep.
1 million. So these immigrants will need services. They will need a place to stay. They will need a doctor. They will need services. That's having an impact right now. And we know that our healthcare system is not efficient. It's a bureaucratic, socialist system, and they're not able. So we will wait a little bit more for surgeries because of the mass immigration that we are having in our country.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of problems like that. So let's have sustainable immigration. Our position is 150,000 a year. If you look at what we had under the upper government, the average during the upper government was 250,000 a year. And now with Trudeau this year, it would be 465,000. And we want to have sustainable immigration. And yes, we are not against immigration. But the problem also is only 25% of them, a quarter of them are skilled immigrants that are coming here because we need their expertise.
Yeah. What about the rest of them?
75% refugees and coming under the reunification of family.
Yeah.
So when they're saying, oh, we need to have more immigrants because we have a lack of workers and we need more workers. Yes and no. Yes, we need more workers, but it's not. You won't solve that by immigration because only 25% are skilled or economic immigrants, and
family reunification is such a nice way of putting it, but ultimately these are overwhelmingly dependents, right? They're children that are going to be in our education system. I'm sure I don't have to explain large class sizes to our viewers, or they're elderly people, right? That are going to be a burden on our healthcare system after these new immigrants haven't really paid into this system at all. So family reunification, it sounds nice, but like it has serious implications on the systems.
Yeah, that's why our proposal is to, when you have a skilled immigrant, that person would be able to come to Canada if we need her or his expertise, but it would be able to come. She will be or he will be able to come with his wife or husband and kids. But that would be the reunification of the family. Now you have granddad, grandmom, uncle.
Aunts,
but they're not coming here to help us to build the economy. More immigration may grow the GDP in our country, but that will slow down the growth of the GDP per capita.
Yeah.
So we are not richer because we have more people in our country.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
There's huge questions about it, but actually we are starting a debate. But the question is, nobody, my friend elected in Parliament in Ottawa, won't do that debate.
Yeah.
I will do that debate, and I'm ready to. And actually, that will be an important one.
Yeah. One other thing I want to mention is when it comes to the housing market, we did talk about the big cities, but the smaller cities around the country, the smaller towns, they're not immune to it as well. The trend that we've kind of seen growing is now immigrants are moving into the big cities, and they're pushing out naturalized Canadians who are then not moving out of Canada. They're just moving to the smaller cities. Which is just going to have the same effect on the housing market in those areas. Again, be it rental properties or buying houses. Now there's going to be increased demand for people fleeing the cities. And it's extending that same housing crisis
in other cities.
Exactly. It's going from just the big cities. Now it's everywhere. And just wait how it'll look in 5-10 years, right?
Because as you know, 500,000 people is the population of Newfoundland. So you have a new Newfoundland, Nova Scotia every 2 years, but Newfoundland every year. So a new Newfoundland every year in Canada, or it's the population of like Quebec City. So you have all these people that will go around the same place. That's put pressures on our social services. And we must have the discussion. We must have fewer of them. We must be able to choose them. We must be able to have an interview with them, asking them if they share our Canadian values. So that's a big reform. And I believe that it's important for the future of this country.
Oh, it's so crucial. And that's just the economic side of it, not even to get into the cultural side. Now, something that we've seen that is positive is in the last few weeks, we've seen a poll released by Leger suggesting that 49% of respondents, 49% of Canadians believe that 500,000 new immigrants per year is too much.
Yeah.
And 75%.
I agree with them.
Yeah. And 75%.
So Daniel, we are not alone.
Yeah.
So maybe all these people are
tiny fringe
racist.
minority.
Yeah. Maybe they're racist also. Like I was supposed to be a racist when I said that. So I'm very pleased that now the people understand more. And that's a great news.
And as well, 75% are concerned that the plan will result in excessive demand for things like healthcare and housing, and that'll have detrimental effects on our society. So what do you think of this kind of shifting in public opinion?
That's great. That's great. And I believe that, that percentage may grow if we can have more coverage from the mainstream media, but it won't happen. But at least I believe that people understand, you're downtown Toronto and you see the effect of that, or you're in another city, you see the effect of mass immigration. So it's a good news, but I believe that more people will come on our side.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a signal for potential growth in the party. There's no one else talking about these things.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone,
they're scared.
It's uniform that immigration is a net good for the country, when economic analysis clearly presents that it's not quite that thing. To close out this segment, I just want to discuss one of those op-eds that I mentioned, one of them in the Globe and Mail, written by David Green, a professor at the Vancouver School of Economics at the University of British Columbia. He wrote a great op-ed entitled "No Immigration is Not Some Magic Pill for Saving the Economy." And he had a lot of great points throughout this article that I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on. So the first kind of segment I have here is, I'll read it out to us. I think we can get it on the screen as well. "I'm in favor of immigration at the levels of the recent past." So that would be the Harper figures that you're suggesting. "But now the main argument made to ramp up immigration is that it will spur economic growth. And this is a tantalizing promise that turns out not to be true. Study after study shows that the sudden expansion in immigration increased the size of the economy, the GDP, but don't change GDP per person or the average wage." You mentioned that earlier. "How well off people are. The research shows that immigration tends to lower wages for people who compete directly with new immigrants, often previously arrived immigrants or low-skilled workers, and improves income for higher skilled and business owners who get labor out of lower wages. That it can be an inequality increasing policy." I thought that was a really interesting way of putting it. So what he's saying, in effect, is that new immigrants coming here, they compete with others in lower wages. It's a race to the bottom, which also expands inequality. It benefits the people at the top, the employers, bringing in
cheap labor
that depend on cheap labor, while depressing the wages of the lower class.
And the solution for the labor shortage, it's not to have more low skill immigrants or people who don't have all the competence that the entrepreneur is looking for. Is for an entrepreneur is to invest more capital to be more productive, so that he will increase his productivity, and that's the solution. So sometimes they're saying, "Oh, we need more people because we have labor shortage," but you need to invest, you need to be more productive as an entrepreneur, and that will solve some of your challenges that you have. You're absolutely right. So
it's very much an employer side, and this is the exact people that are pushing it, right?
Oh yeah,
it's the super wealthy, the people that want that depend on that benefit from lower wages, that are advocating for bringing in more people, when the real normal economic solution is to let the price of labor, the
Free
wages,
markets.
to increase, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what David Green says later on in the article. Let me read again. Second, the economy is not a machine that breaks down when parts are missing. It is an organic being that flows guided by prices. If we didn't bring in immigrants to match vacancies, that does not necessarily lead to catastrophe. When that happens, wages should have to increase to attract domestic workers.
Absolutely.
This is how the economy functions. It's not, we have a high unemployment rate, we need to bring in people. No, there needs to be some adjustments. People need to
absolutely
be paid more.
And that number, 500,000 people every year, it's coming from the lobbying of the big businesses.
Yeah.
That's the lobbying of the industry.
Yeah.
So the government is following what they're asking for, and it won't solve. And like I said before, that will slow down the GDP growth per capita, and we won't be richer. It will. Yes, the economy will be bigger because we have more people, but per capita, the growth of the GDP will be slower.
Yeah.
So that will have an effect. But also, we don't speak about the cost of that, because when you have new immigrants, there's a cost for the society. A lot of these people, the reunification of family, are not working. Or if they're working, like you said, they're working maybe in a low salary job, so they don't pay the same average of taxes that we are paying in Canada. So they did a study, it's a little bit an old one, but in 2014, and the cost per immigrant at that time in 2014 was $5,300 per immigrant. Yeah. Today, it must be much higher than that. But that's a huge cost. So we need to speak about that. But the government, the Conservative, Poilievre, the NDP, they don't want to speak about the effect of mass immigration in our country. Yeah. They're scared. They think that, and they're pandering to ridings when you have a big majority of newcomers and that wants to have their grandmom, granddad, uncle with them. So that's why they don't want to speak about that. So for them, immigration, actually mass immigration, is a way to buy vote.
Yeah, and that's definitely what the Trudeau government is doing. He brings in people. But
same thing for the Conservative. The Conservative, they will want the support in the big GTA and in near Vancouver. So they are pandering and they are buying votes with that immigration policy.
Yeah, it's kind of two-sided. They want to pander to immigrant heavy areas, but they're also getting influenced by those corporate lobbyists and big business who benefit from lower wages and larger consumer bases and all these things.
Yeah. And the solution for businesses and for entrepreneurs is to invest, to be more productive in new technology. And that's the solution.
Yeah, for sure. There's one other part of this article that I thought was particularly interesting. And that's this common argument that we need immigration because we're headed to a kind of population collapse when the baby boomers start retiring. So
we need young people.
Yeah.
But reunification of family, they're not so young.
Exactly. So what David Green writes is, linked to the argument about labor shortages is the aging of our population. The retirement of the baby boom will lead to substantial increases in the ratio of non-workers to workers over the next decade. Surely bringing in more immigrants is the right solution to this? The answer is that it will help a little bit, but immigrants aren't that much younger than people already living here. And adding 100,000 more immigrants a year won't move the age dial enough to seriously alter the dependency ratio. And while it's not solving these problems, a jump in immigration will put strains on other parts of our economy and society. Adding 100,000 more immigrants a year will mean a big increase in people looking for housing in our cities each year, where housing markets are already at a breaking point. Not to mention effects on the education system, healthcare, and so on.
Yeah. He's right about all that.
No, he puts it very well. It's a great
Did he quote us?
No,
The
he did
PPC?
not
No?
mention the PPC once in his article. I would have liked Maxime Bernier is the only brave politician willing to speak out on this issue while everyone else cowers in fear. But that was somehow left out.
Before writing his piece, maybe he read our platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he did that on our, and you can do that. Go on our website, People's Party of Canada.ca, click on platform, and go on the immigration policy. That would be almost that. I believe. I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure he was on our website and he took the time to read our platform.
We'll have to reach out to David Green
Yeah,
to make
ask
sure
him,
that
please.
he's aware that
Ask
there
him.
is a political option for these
Yeah.
people. One other thing I did find funny as I read
Mm-hmm.
through all of these op-eds was all of these authors they had to include a couple of lines in all of their op-eds about just to defend against getting accused of racism or white supremacy or all the things that they like to call us. Even in one of these National Post op-eds that was entitled, "It's not racist or xenophobic to criticize immigration policy," the writer had to add this line right here. "None of this is an argument for stopping immigration. Of course, it is an indisputable fact that immigration has enriched our country beyond any measure, making it the envy of the world." Canada's the envy of the world right now. "We are a more vibrant and culturally enriched nation as a result of it." All of them had some sort of sentence or line to that effect, just in case they got attacked for being racist. But like, you seriously?
But they're the one who attacked me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they were saying that I was a racist.
It's real
and
rich.
now,
I have to
they
write
don't-
it because the economics say I have to criticize this, but they're scared still.
Yeah, this is. But at least that was the first step.
Yeah.
And it's a good one. But they're not racist. I'm not racist. It's only a question to have that discussion and we not be scared to speak about it openly with passion and conviction.
Yeah, exactly. So
based on facts.
It's the simple economic reality. It's I'd be happy to cover anyone's economics 101 course if they don't understand that supply and demand make prices go up. So with all that out of the way, I do want to shift over to our last segment, which is taking your questions. Before we get into that, I do want to give one final reminder to interact with this live stream in any way that you can. Drop a like, a follow, a retweet, a share, whatever the social media mumbo jumbo is for the platform you're on. Take a moment to interact with this live stream. It helps get more eyeballs on this, on our content, on our message, which is the whole point at the end of the day. But better yet, head over to those pro free speech channels, Rumble or Odyssey, and drop us a follow there. That'll make sure that you're able to follow our video content, our live streams, even if we get knocked off one of those traditional social media platforms. But the best thing you can do is to head over to our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and make sure you're on our email list. There's a sign up box right there on the homepage. Make sure you're signed up for our email list to get Maxim's hot takes in your inbox on a regular basis, at least once a week. And also you get updates from your local team, as well as any updates on when Maxim is coming to an area near you. We will have some upcoming events in Ontario and Manitoba to be announced soon. But better yet, if you can become a member of the party, that's how you get involved. It's just $10 for 1 year, $35 for 5 years. And that's how you get involved in the party as a volunteer, as a candidate on your association. You need a membership to get involved. As well, if you can make a small tax-deductible donation, that would be greatly appreciated. Everything below $400 is 75% tax-deductible. And it's a new year, so those donations last year, they don't count towards this year's limit anymore. So a $100 donation will only cost you $25 come tax season. A $20 donation will only cost you $5 once taxes are filed. So on that note, I do want to start taking your questions. Do we have any ready to take right now? Perfect. We have Trevor Smith, one of our super fans on YouTube. People's Party of Canada. Maxim, if you are elected into office, would you talk and work with other MPs to push back against mass immigration? Do you think some CPC MPs would bite?
Yes, I will do that, but no, I don't think they will. They had the chance to do that before in 2019, 2021, and never. So, but we will, and we'll see what will happen. But when we'll have more people, now we have at most 50% of the population, maybe they won't be scared to take that position when 70% of the population will be on our side. So that's why we need to speak about it. I will do that in the house, outside the house, like I'm doing right now, and try to convince these people. But right now, the Conservative Party of Canada, Liberals, NDP, Green, or the Bloc Québécois don't have a position like us, and they're scared to speak about it. They're all these parties are for mass immigration.
Yeah, we'd be happy to work with any based fellow travelers willing to work with us, but
Yeah.
I'm disappointed to say we haven't seen too many of those over the last few years. Do we have any other questions? Simon on YouTube asks, can we have buses at Roxham Road, please, and send them to Ottawa, just in front of Trudeau's house?
Oh, yeah.
A kind of Ron DeSantis type move. I like it.
I like it.
I would pay to see that happening. Well, make a donation, Simon.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I like it. It's a good idea. Maybe why not doing that? Yes, but actually, what we must do first, it's just like I said, we're not American. We won't build a wall there. But maybe we can have a little fence.
Yeah.
We're Canadians, a little fence, and that will stop all that. So that's our position. Put a fence over there, and that will stop.
Yeah. Just cracking down on it in any way instead of just carrying their bags over the border for them would make a big difference. But I do like that idea, Simon. It's a
good one.
We do a little trolling.
And I like DeSantis. I like what he did.
yeah. Do you have any other questions? Dick Wayne on YouTube asks, can the Bank of Canada be restored? What do you think of the Bank of Canada? Can we fix it?
I believe that we can. It will start by an agreement with the Bank of Canada. As you know, every 5 years, the federal government is having an agreement with the Bank of Canada about the inflation target. That can be a big change if we can have an inflation target of 0%. Like that, everybody will be richer, and we won't have inflation anymore. So that's our position on that, and I believe that's a big reform. So you start by that, and after that you see. But I agree, we need to change. We need to be bold and telling the bureaucrats at the Bank of Canada that that's because of them and politicians Ottawa. That we have that inflation. By the way, that Pierre Poilievre speaking against that, but he approved all the spending COVID-19, and that was part of the inflation. And because of that big deficit that the Conservative and Poilievre voted for, the Bank of Canada printed that money to be the credit card of the federal government. So Poilievre can speak against inflation, but it's part of that. It's part of the problem because he voted for that huge deficit during COVID-19 with all these programs. And I was saying we must shut down the economy, and like that you won't have to create these. We must not shut down the economy, and like that you won't have to create these programs for Canadians. But yes, we must start by a zero inflation target.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Maxim. On New Year's Day, Aaron O'Toole published a little article saying, "Let's leave the fuck Trudeau flags back in 2022."
People must be free to do what they want. So if people are fed up with Trudeau and they have a way to express it, and that's their decision. But that being said, freedom of expression is freedom of expression.
Yeah. Just like you said earlier, people are free to insult you if they want.
Yeah, they can. They can do it. And
Yeah. Before you start attacking these people for expressing their displeasure in the government, maybe Trudeau should take a cue from Jordan Peterson and make sure his own room is clean.
Yeah. Oh my
before
God.
He starts
yes.
blaming people for getting mad at him.
Oh yeah.
That's the advice I'd give to Aaron O'Toole and Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
Do we have one more question before we wrap up the show for tonight? Karen Belanger asks on YouTube, question, can we take healthcare out of the hands of the government and put it into the free market? I know it could lead to probably other problems, but at least we can avoid pandemics ever again. So what do you think of that? Free market approach to healthcare?
Yeah, we must have more free market approach, and we must have a system like in Europe. And yes, you must be able to choose if you want to go to a private clinic or a public hospital, but everybody must have the universal coverage like they have in Sweden and in other European countries. And by the way, they're spending less money than us in healthcare, and they're more efficient. They don't have any waiting list for surgeries. So yes, we have a bureaucratic system, and now it's a socialist system. You don't have competition in that system. We need to open the windows and put more competition, and you'll do that by having private delivery and public delivery. But we won't be able to do that at the federal level. It's under a provincial jurisdiction, but you can give them a lot of incentive to do it by cutting the subsidies that the federal government is giving to provinces for healthcare, and giving them the GST, transferring the tax point, and like that they will raise the money from their own jurisdiction. And and that would be a good incentive to change the system, because they would have a debate at the cabinet level in provincial government. The finance maybe the transport minister would ask for more money, and maybe the healthcare minister would ask for more money, and they would have that debate at the provincial level, and they're going to say, maybe we cannot give 55% of our budget in healthcare. There's other priorities, and they will try to find a new model. And the new one is the one in Europe that is more efficient. And that's the only way to be sure that we'll have that reform, by stopping to give subsidies to provinces for healthcare, but giving them the means to raise that money with the GST. It will be their tax, the GST, at the provincial level.
Yeah. That's one of the more confusing parts of our platform on healthcare right there. As we were kind of explaining earlier when we were talking about equalization, the provincial governments are dependent on the federal government for transfers of tax money. But this always has caused a weird political debate between the provinces and the federal government. We see it going on right now. They want more money.
And
the federal government doesn't want to give more money, stuff like
and
this.
They want to impose conditions.
So what we advocate for, what Maxime was just explaining, is instead of transferring that money, we'll just make the GST, the sales tax, go directly to the provinces, and then they'll have the budget directly for their healthcare decisions, and then they'll be entirely responsible for their budget. They don't have to ask the federal government for more money. They don't have to have conditions imposed onto them. And when they realize that they don't have enough money to cover this ridiculous healthcare system that we have in Canada, they'll be forced into decisions to offer more free market approaches.
And for you citizens, you know to blame for a lack of services. Now you don't know to blame. Is it the federal government because the federal government is not giving enough money to your province, or is it the provincial government because they're not efficient at managing the healthcare system?
They can't just point fingers at each other.
That's it. And now you know to blame. It will be your provincial government, and the federal government won't have anything to do with it. They will have all the responsibility to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, that's great. It's such an important policy, but it's just one that people often don't understand. So with that out of the way, I do want to wrap up the show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching our show, for asking questions. If we didn't get to your question tonight, please tune in, not next week, but the week after, when we have our live stream. We'll try and get to your question then. Thank you so much for tuning in. One final, I am Daniel Tyree, Executive Director of the party. He's Maxime Bernier. Have a great night. Stay strong and free.
Thank you, everybody.